The ancient walls of Windsor Castle held secrets that even the most experienced royal staff whispered about only in the darkest corners. Sir Malcolm Bradshaw had served the crown for 32 years, his unwavering loyalty earning him the position of Senior Royal Protection Officer. His weathered face had witnessed countless royal ceremonies, scandals, and private moments. But nothing had prepared him for what he discovered on that crisp autumn morning Princess Charlotte, now 8 years old, skipped through the corridors with her usual boundless energy. Unaware that her world was about to shift dramatically, the young princess had always been the darling of the royal family, her infectious smile and spirited personality winning hearts across the Commonwealth. Her parents, Prince William and Princess Catherine, had carefully protected her from the harsh realities of royal politics. But certain forces within the palace walls were growing restless. Queen Camilla had been observing Charlotte's development with increasing interest. Since becoming queen consort, Camilla had worked tirelessly to establish her own legacy within the monarchy. She understood that the future of the royal family would largely depend on how the younger generation was shaped and positioned. Charlotte represented something unique. A young princess with natural charisma and an ability to connect with people that reminded many of her late grandmother. Princess Diana, the morning Sir Malcolm discovered the document, changed everything. He had been conducting his routine security sweep of the Queen's private study when a folder marked with the royal seal caught his attention. The contents revealed a comprehensive plan that Camilla had been developing with her closest advisors. The document outlined a new role for Princess Charlotte, one that would fundamentally alter her position within the royal hierarchy. The plan proposed establishing Charlotte as the official ambassador of royal youth, a newly created title that would give her unprecedented responsibility and visibility. This position would require Charlotte to take on public duties typically reserved for adult royals, including international visits, charity work, and formal state functions. The document detailed how this new role would be gradually introduced to the public, starting with small appearances and building 2 major royal tours. Sir Malcolm's concern grew as he read further. The timeline suggested that Charlotte would begin these duties within months, despite her young age. The plan included provisions for private tutoring in diplomacy, public speaking, and royal protocol. Most troubling was a section that discussed gradually separating Charlotte from her parents' direct supervision, placing her under a new team of handlers, specifically chosen by Queen Camilla. The security officer understood the implications immediately. This wasn't simply about giving Charlotte more responsibility. It was about positioning her as Camilla's protege and potentially creating a new power structure within the royal family. The young princess would become a symbol of Camilla's influence and vision for the monarchy's future. As Malcolm carefully replaced the documents, his mind raced with the potential consequences. Prince William and Princess Catherine had been kept in the dark about these plans. The document made it clear that Camilla intended to present this new role as a fait accompli, using Charlotte's natural charm and public appeal to make it impossible for her parents to object without appearing to hold back their daughters' potential. The officer's loyalty to the crown had always been absolute, but his protective instincts toward the young princess were equally strong. He had watched Charlotte grow from a toddler into a bright, curious child who deserved to experience childhood without the weight of royal obligations crushing her spirit. The plan he had discovered threatened to rob her of those precious years of innocence and normal development. That evening, Sir Malcolm faced an impossible choice. His oath demanded absolute discretion and loyalty to the reigning monarch and queen consort. However, his conscience demanded that he consider the welfare of Princess Charlotte and the potential impact on the royal family's stability. The plan could create divisions between different branches of the royal family and potentially damage the monarchy's reputation. If the public perceived it as exploiting a young child, the officer spent sleepless hours weighing his options. He could remain silent and allow events to unfold as Camilla planned, hoping that the adults involved would ultimately act in Charlotte's best interests. Alternatively, could find a way to alert Prince William and Princess Catherine about what was being planned for their daughter, knowing that such action could end his career and potentially expose him to serious legal consequences. As dawn broke over Windsor Castle, Sir Malcolm made his decision. The welfare of Princess Charlotte and the stability of the royal family had to take precedence over his personal safety and career. He began to carefully plan how he could warn the Prince and Princess of Wales without directly betraying his oath or leaving evidence that could be traced back to him. Stage was set for a confrontation that would test the very foundations of royal protocol and family loyalty. Unknown to Sir Malcolm, his discovery was only the beginning of a complex web of palace intrigue that would ultimately force the royal family to confront fundamental questions about tradition, power, and the protection of their youngest members. Prince William stood in his private office at Kensington Palace, staring at the coded message that had appeared on his desk that morning. The note was brief but alarming, suggesting he needed to investigate matters concerning his daughter's future role within the royal family. The message bore no signature, but the palace watermark indicated it came from someone with high-level access to royal communications. Princess Catherine entered the room carrying her morning tea, immediately noticing the tension in her husband's posture. After 13 years of marriage, she could read his moods with remarkable accuracy. The way he held the paper and the furrow in his brow told her that whatever he was reading carried significant weight. William shared the mysterious message with his wife, and together they began to piece together subtle changes they had noticed in recent weeks. Queen Camilla had been showing unusual interest in Charlotte's schedule and activities. There had been several private meetings between Camilla and senior royal staff that seemed to exclude William and Catherine from the discussion. Most notably, Charlotte herself had mentioned that grandmother, Camilla, had been asking detailed questions about her favorite subjects in school and her thoughts about helping people around the world. The couple decided to conduct their own discreet investigation. Catherine reached out to Lady Margaret Thornton, her former private secretary who maintained connections throughout the royal household. Meanwhile, William contacted his most trusted security detail to gather information about any unusual activities or meetings that might shed light on the mysterious message. Within hours, they began receiving disturbing reports. Palace staff whispered about a special committee that Queen Camilla had assembled, consisting of communications experts, education specialists, and protocol officers. This committee had been meeting regularly to discuss something referred to only as Project Charlotte in official documents. The secrecy surrounding these meetings was unprecedented, especially given that Charlotte's parents had not been informed or included. Lady Margaret confirmed their worst fears during a private phone call with Catherine. The former private secretary had learned from reliable sources that Queen Camilla was indeed planning to announce a significant new role for Princess Charlotte. The announcement would be made at an upcoming state dinner, where international dignitaries would be present too. Witness what Camilla envisioned as a historic moment for the monarchy. The proposed ambassador of royal youth position would fundamentally change Charlotte's life. She would be expected to attend formal events, deliver public speeches, and represent the royal family at international functions. The role came with its own staff, including private tutors who would reshape her education to focus on diplomacy languages. In public relations, rather than the normal curriculum her parents had chosen for her, William's anger was barely contained as he learned more details about the plan. The timeline called for Charlotte to begin her new duties immediately following her 9th birthday, which was only months away. The first official engagement would be a solo visit to a Commonwealth nation, where Charlotte would deliver a prepared speech about youth empowerment. In the future of the monarchy, Catherine was horrified by the implications for their daughter's psychological well-being. Charlotte was still a child who enjoyed playing with her friends, riding her horse, and pursuing her interests in art and nature. The proposed schedule would eliminate most of these activities, replacing them with formal training sessions and official appearances that would consume her childhood. The couple realized they faced an unprecedented challenge. Queen Camilla held significant power within the royal hierarchy, and her plan had clearly been developed with considerable thought and planning. Opposing her directly would create a public rift within the royal family that could damage the monarchy's reputation and potentially affect the line of succession. However, William and Catherine's primary concern remained their daughter's welfare. They had witnessed firsthand how royal pressure and public scrutiny had affected previous generations, and they were determined to protect Charlotte from being exploited or overwhelmed by responsibilities. She was too young to understand fully. They began developing their own strategy to counter Camilla's plan. William reached out to his father, King Charles III, hoping to gain his support for protecting Charlotte's childhood. However, he soon discovered that Charles was traveling abroad and would not return until after Camilla's planned announcement, making it impossible to seek his immediate intervention. Catherine focused on legal and constitutional aspects of the situation. She consulted with royal lawyers to understand whether Camilla had the authority to create new, official positions for family members without the consent of their parents. The legal analysis revealed a complex situation where royal prerogative and family authority intersected in ways that had never been tested before. As evening approached, William and Catherine faced a critical decision. They could wait and try to work through official channels, risking that Camilla would proceed with her announcement before they could stop it. Alternatively, they could take immediate action to protect their daughter, potentially creating a crisis within the royal family, but ensuring that Charlotte's interests were protected. The couple spent the night developing contingency plans for various scenarios. They discussed the possibility of temporarily removing Charlotte from royal events and public appearances until the matter could be resolved. They also considered the option of making their own public statement about their daughter's role and their intentions for her upbringing. Unknown to them, Queen Camilla had become aware of their investigation through her own network of palace informants. The stage was being set for a confrontation that would force both sides to reveal their true intentions and priorities regarding Princess Charlotte's future. The grand ballroom of Buckingham Palace buzzed with anticipation as distinguished guests arrived for what had been advertised as a routine state dinner. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez from Spain noticed an unusual energy among the royal staff, who seemed more nervous than typical for such events. The evening's guest list included representatives from Commonwealth nations, making it an ideal setting for any significant royal announcements. Queen Camilla moved through the reception with practiced grace, her confidence suggesting she held important news to share. She had spent weeks perfecting her speech for this evening, knowing that the announcement of Charlotte's new role would mark a defining moment in her own reign as queen consort. The presence of international media and distinguished guests would ensure global coverage of what she considered a progressive step for the monarchy. Meanwhile, Prince William and Princess Catherine arrived at the palace with heavy hearts. Knowing they might have to witness their daughter being thrust into a role they fundamentally opposed, Charlotte herself remained at Kensington Palace under the care of her nanny, blissfully unaware that her future was being decided by adults whose conflicting interests threatened to tear the royal family apart. Sir Malcolm Bradshaw positioned himself strategically throughout the evening, maintaining his professional demeanor while keeping careful watch over the unfolding drama. His decision to warn Prince William had set these events in motion, and he felt the weight of responsibility for whatever consequences would follow. The senior protection officer understood that his career hung in the balance, but his concern for Princess Charlotte's welfare continued to drive his actions. As dinner concluded and guests moved to the reception area, Queen Camilla prepared to make her announcement. The palace communications team had already prepared press releases that would be distributed immediately following her speech, ensuring that news of Charlotte's new role would reach global media outlets within minutes. However, Prince William had not been idle during the dinner. He had used the opportunity to speak privately with several Commonwealth representatives, subtly gauging their reactions to the possibility of a young princess taking on official diplomatic duties. The responses confirmed his concerns, while many expressed admiration for Charlotte's charm and potential. They also raised questions about the appropriateness of involving such a young child in formal diplomatic activities. Catherine had focused her attention on the media representatives present at the dinner. Her conversations revealed that several journalists were already aware that an important announcement was planned, though they remained unclear about the specific details. The level of media preparation suggested that Camilla's team had been laying groundwork for this moment for considerable time. As the moment for the announcement approached, Sir Malcolm made a crucial decision. He approached Prince William discreetly, and provided him with detailed information about the specific timeline and scope of Camilla's plan. This intelligence allowed William to understand exactly what his stepmother intended to announce and gave him the final pieces of information he needed to formulate his response. The confrontation began subtly, but escalated quickly. As Queen Camilla moved toward the podium to address the gathered guests, Prince William approached her with a request for a private conversation. The exchange between stepmother and stepson was brief but intense, with William making it clear that he and Catherine had not consented to the new role being proposed for their daughter. Camilla's reaction revealed the depth of her commitment to the plan. She argued that Charlotte's natural abilities and the monarchy's need for modernization made this appointment both appropriate and necessary. The Queen Consort emphasized that she was acting in the best interests of both Charlotte and the royal family, positioning herself as a visionary leader, preparing the monarchy for the future. William's response was equally firm, but more pointed. He reminded Camilla that as Charlotte's father, retained primary authority over decisions affecting his daughter's upbringing and official duties. He also questioned the wisdom of placing such heavy responsibilities on a child who should be focused on her education and normal development. The tension between them was noticeable to nearby guests, though most remained unaware of the specific nature of their disagreement. Palace staff members who witnessed the exchange recognized that they were observing an unprecedented clash between different visions for the royal family's future. Catherine joined the conversation, bringing her perspective as Charlotte's mother and a protective parent. She pointed out that the proposed timeline would fundamentally alter their daughter's childhood and potentially expose her to pressures that could harm her psychological development. Catherine also raised concerns about the precedent this would set for other young royals and the message it would send about the monarchy's priorities. The standoff reached a critical point when Queen Camilla indicated that she intended to proceed with her announcement regardless of William and Catherine's objections. She believed that the positive public reaction to Charlotte's new role would ultimately vindicate her decision and demonstrate the wisdom of her approach. However, Prince William had prepared for this possibility. He informed Camilla that he and Catherine had consulted with legal experts and were not prepared to take formal action to protect their parental rights and Charlotte's welfare. This legal threat introduced a new dimension to the conflict, as it could potentially expose the royal family to public scrutiny and constitutional questions about authority within the monarchy. The evening that was intended to showcase royal unity and progressive leadership instead became the setting for a family crisis that would have lasting implications for all involved parties. The private drawing room adjacent to the ballroom became the stage for an emergency family meeting that would determine Princess Charlotte's fate. Queen Camilla found herself facing not only Prince William and Princess Catherine, but also several senior royal advisors who had been hastily summoned to address the constitutional crisis that was developing. Lord Chamberlain Sir Andrew Parker arrived within minutes of being contacted, his experience in managing royal protocol making him essential to resolving the unprecedented situation. The distinguished courtier had served the royal family through numerous challenges, but never before had he been called upon to mediate a dispute that threatened to create a public spectacle during a formal state function. The heated discussion revealed the full extent of the planning that had gone into Camilla's proposal. She presented detailed reports from child psychologists and education experts who had evaluated Charlotte's readiness for increased public responsibilities. These professionals had concluded that Charlotte possessed exceptional maturity and communication skills that made her uniquely suited for the role of youth ambassador. Queen Camilla also revealed polling data showing strong public support for involving younger royals in official duties. The research indicated that Charlotte's appearances generated significant positive media coverage and increased public interest in the monarchy. Camilla argued that this evidence demonstrated the wisdom of formalizing Charlotte's role and maximizing her potential to serve the crown. Prince William challenged the validity of this research, pointing out that the evaluations had been conducted without his or Catherine's knowledge or consent. He questioned whether the experts had been given complete information about the demands, pressures that would accompany the proposed role. William also expressed concern that the psychological assessments failed to consider the long-term impact of constant public scrutiny on a developing child. Princess. Catherine presented her own research, which included studies on the effects of early celebrity and public pressure on child development. The evidence she had gathered painted a troubling picture of potential psychological harm, including anxiety, depression, and difficulty forming normal social relationships. Catherine argued that protecting Charlotte's mental health should take precedence over any potential benefits to the monarchy. The constitutional aspect of the dispute proved equally complex. Sir Andrew Parker explained that while Queen Camilla held significant authority within the royal hierarchy, the rights of parents to make decisions about their children's welfare remained paramount under British law. However, the unique position of royal children created legal ambiguities that had never been tested in court. As the debate continued, it became clear that both sides had valid concerns and legitimate arguments. Camilla's vision for Charlotte's role was genuinely motivated by her belief that it would benefit both the young princess and the monarchy. She saw Charlotte as having the potential to become a transformative figure who could modernize the royal family's image and connect with younger generations around the world. Conversely, William and Catherine's opposition stemmed from their deep love for their daughter and their determination to protect her childhood. They had witnessed the pressures that royal life had placed on previous generations and were committed to ensuring that Charlotte could develop naturally without being burdened by adult responsibilities before she was emotionally ready. Meeting took an unexpected turn when Sir Malcolm Bradshaw requested permission to speak. The senior protection officer's revelation that he had discovered the plans and alerted Prince William added another layer of complexity to the situation. His actions had clearly violated protocol, but his motivations were rooted in genuine concern for Princess Charlotte's welfare, sir. Andrew Parker recognized that the dispute could not be resolved through normal channels without risking significant damage to the royal family's reputation. The guests in the ballroom were becoming aware that something unusual was happening, and delaying the evening's conclusion much longer generate unwanted speculation and media attention. A temporary compromise began to emerge from the discussions. Queen Camilla agreed to postpone any public announcement about Charlotte's new role pending further consultation with child development experts and constitutional lawyers. In return, Prince William and Catherine agreed to participate in a formal review process that would examine all aspects of the proposed position. However, this compromise came with conditions that reflected the deep divisions that had emerged. Camilla insisted that Charlotte should begin preparatory activities for the role, including specialized tutoring and gradual exposure to public appearances. William and Catherine demanded that any such activities remain voluntary, and subject to their approval at every stage. The question of Sir Malcolm's future also required resolution. His violation of protocol could normally result in immediate dismissal and potential legal action. However, his long record of faithful service and his genuine concern for Princess Charlotte's welfare complicated the situation. The decision about his fate would need to be made by King Charles III upon his return from abroad, as the emergency meeting concluded. All parties understood that the evening's events had fundamentally altered the dynamics within the royal family. The conflict had exposed different philosophies about the monarchy's future and the role that young royals should play in its evolution. The guests in the ballroom were eventually told that Queen Camilla would be making her planned announcement at a later date, allowing the evening to conclude without incident. However, the brief delay in the program had generated enough curiosity among media representatives to ensure that speculation about the nature of the announcement would begin appearing in news reports within hours. King Charles III returned to London 3 days earlier than planned after receiving urgent communications about the developing crisis within the royal family. His flight from the Commonwealth Summit had been filled with briefings from senior advisors who tried to prepare him for the complex situation he would need to address immediately upon his arrival at Buckingham Palace. Monarch's first priority was meeting individually with each of the principal parties involved in the dispute. His conversation with Queen Camilla revealed the depth of her conviction about Charlotte's potential and her frustration with what she perceived as her stepson's resistance to progress. Camilla presented her case with passionate arguments about the monarchy's need to evolve and connect with younger generations. King Charles found himself in the difficult position of mediating between his wife and his eldest son, both of whom had legitimate concerns about Princess Charlotte's future. His meeting with Prince William and Princess Catherine reinforced his understanding of their parental instincts and their determination to protect their daughter from premature exposure to royal pressures. The constitutional experts that Charles consulted provided sobering analysis of the potential consequences of the dispute. A public confrontation between different branches of the royal family could undermine confidence in the monarchy and raise questions about its internal governance. The lawyers also warned that any legal action involving Princess Charlotte could set precedents that might affect future royal children. Meanwhile, Princess Charlotte continued her normal routine at school and home. Unaware that her future had become the subject of intense palace negotiations, her teachers reported that she remained her usual cheerful and engaged self, participating enthusiastically in lessons and playing happily with her classmates during break times. The media attention that had been building since the state dinner began to intensify as royal correspondents investigated rumors about a significant announcement concerning Princess Charlotte. Several newspapers published speculative articles about potential new roles for young royals, though none had discovered the specific details of Queen Camilla's plan. King Charles decided to convene a formal family council to address the situation comprehensively. This meeting would include Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Catherine, and senior royal advisors. The goal was to reach a resolution that would protect both Princess Charlotte's interests and the stability of the royal family. The Family Council session proved to be one of the most challenging meetings in recent royal history. Each participant came prepared with detailed arguments supporting their position, and the discussions revealed fundamental philosophical differences about the monarchy's direction and the treatment of royal children. Queen Camilla maintained her position that Charlotte represented a unique opportunity to modernize the royal family's approach to public service. She argued that delaying Charlotte's involvement in official duties would waste precious years when the young princess could be developing skills and building relationships that would serve her throughout her royal career. Prince William countered with detailed research about child development and the potential psychological costs of early celebrity. He presented examples of other public figures whose children had suffered from premature exposure to media attention and public responsibilities. William emphasized that protecting Charlotte's mental health should be the primary consideration in any decision about her future role. Princess Catherine focused on practical concerns about how the proposed ambassadorial position would affect Charlotte's education and social development. She outlined the importance of allowing Charlotte to form normal friendships, pursue her own interests, and develop her identity outside of her royal status before taking on formal responsibilities. The turning point in the discussions came when King Charles shared his own experiences as a young royal and the lessons he had learned about balancing duty with personal development. The monarch acknowledged that previous generations had sometimes failed to adequately protect royal children from overwhelming pressures and responsibilities. A breakthrough emerged when Queen Camilla agreed to modify her proposals significantly. Instead of creating an immediate formal ambassadorial role, she suggested developing a gradual program that would allow Charlotte to explore public service opportunities at her own pace. This modified approach would include educational components about the Commonwealth and charitable work, but would not require formal appearances or speeches until Charlotte was older. Prince William and Princess Catherine found this revised proposal more acceptable, particularly when additional safeguards were included to protect Charlotte's privacy and ensure that her participation remained voluntary. The agreement included provisions for regular psychological assessments and the ability for Charlotte's parents to withdraw her from any activities if concerns arose about her well-being. The resolution also addressed Sir Malcolm Bradshaw's situation. King Charles recognized that the protection officer's actions, while technically inappropriate, had been motivated by genuine concern for Princess Charlotte. Rather than dismissal, Sir Malcolm would receive a formal reprimand and additional training on protocol, allowing him to continue his distinguished service to the royal family. The family council concluded with an agreement to present a unified public position about Princess Charlotte's future involvement in royal duties. This announcement would emphasize the gradual and voluntary nature of any increased responsibilities, while highlighting the royal family's commitment to protecting the welfare of all royal children. 6 months after the palace crisis, Princess Charlotte sat in the garden at Kensington Palace, completely absorbed in painting a watercolored landscape of the flowers blooming around her. The 9-year-old princess had no idea that her peaceful afternoon represented the success of her parents' efforts to protect her childhood from the pressures that had nearly overwhelmed it. The public announcement about Charlotte's future role had been carefully crafted to satisfy multiple constituencies, while preserving the family unity that had been threatened. During those tense days at Buckingham Palace, the statement described a new youth education initiative. It would gradually introduce Charlotte to charitable work and Commonwealth culture, but emphasized that her participation would always be voluntary and appropriate. Queen Camilla had found ways to channel her vision for modernizing the monarchy into other projects that did not involve placing unrealistic demands on young royals. She had launched a series of initiatives focused on education and youth empowerment that received positive public attention, while allowing her to pursue her goals for royal innovation without compromising family relationships. Prince William and Princess Catherine had maintained their commitment to providing Charlotte with as normal a childhood as possible, while gradually introducing her to the responsibilities that would eventually come with her royal status. Charlotte's schedule continued to prioritize her education, friendships, and personal interests. With only occasional participation in family charitable activities, the resolution had strengthened, rather than weakened, the bonds within the royal family. King Charles III's skillful mediation had demonstrated his ability to balance competing interests while protecting the monarchy's stability. His handling of the crisis had earned respect from all parties involved and reinforced his authority as head of the royal family. Sir Malcolm Bradshaw had emerged from the situation with his career intact, and his reputation enhanced among those who valued his protective instincts toward the royal children. His willingness to risk his position for Princess Charlotte's welfare had made him a trusted figure within the family's security apparatus. The media attention that had surrounded the story eventually subsided as other royal news captured public interest. The careful management of the announcement had prevented the kind of speculation and controversy that could have damaged the monarchy's reputation or created lasting divisions within the family. Princess Charlotte herself had benefited enormously from the protection her parents had provided during the crisis. She continued to display the natural charm and intelligence that had impressed Queen Camilla, but these qualities were now being nurtured in an environment that prioritized her emotional and psychological development. The young princess had begun participating in selected charitable activities with her parents, but these appearances were brief and focused on causes that genuinely interested her. Charlotte showed particular enthusiasm for environmental conservation and animal welfare, leading to speculation that these might become her primary areas of focus as she grew older. The educational component of the compromise had proven successful in preparing Charlotte for her eventual royal responsibilities without overwhelming her with premature pressures. She had begun learning about Commonwealth countries and their cultures through interactive lessons that felt more like play than formal instruction. Queen Camilla's relationship with Prince William and Princess Catherine had been strengthened by their ability to work through the crisis together. The experience had demonstrated that despite their different approaches to royal duties, they shared a fundamental commitment to the welfare of the royal children and the success of the monarchy. The constitutional questions raised by the dispute had led to useful clarifications about the rights and responsibilities of royal parents. These discussions had resulted in informal guidelines that would help prevent similar conflicts from arising in the future and ensure that the welfare of royal children remained the primary consideration in any decisions about their public roles. As evening approached and Charlotte completed her painting, she called excitedly for her parents to come and admire her work. The watercolor showed a garden filled with bright flowers under a sunny sky, reflecting the optimism and joy that continued to characterize her daily life despite the royal dramas that had swirled around her. Prince William and Princess Catherine joined their daughter in the garden, praising her artistic efforts and listening as she described her plans for future paintings. The scene represented everything they had fought to protect their daughter's right to be a child, to pursue her interests, and to develop naturally without being forced into roles that she was not ready to assume. The crisis that had threatened to tear the royal family apart had ultimately strengthened their commitment to protecting the youngest generation while honoring their responsibilities to the crown and the people they served. Princess Charlotte's future remained bright with possibilities, but those possibilities would unfold at her own pace and according to her own interests rather than being dictated by adult ambitions or institutional pressures. The palace gardens that had witnessed so much royal history continued to provide a peaceful sanctuary where a young princess could simply be herself, painting flowers and dreaming about tomorrow, while remaining blissfully unaware of the dramatic events that had secured her right to do exactly that.